All right, so today's episode, or today's continuing Cybersecurity Awareness Month episode, we're going to talk to Robert Cioffi. I'm going to go ahead and just put his picture on there. He looks like Iron Man with that beard and haircut, so he looks great. Tony Stark looking guy. He is the CTO, founder of Progressive Computing, and I'm an all-around great guy and friend for Lifecycle Insights. So go ahead, you can take it away from here, Robert. Do your thing. And you're muted, so.
What kind of tech guy am I? I'm on mute. Thanks for that introduction. I wish I had Tony Stark's, even some of his fake money, geez, because he's not a real person, but certainly Robert Downey Jr., I would like to have some of that money. So I'm Robert Cioffi. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Progressive Computing, Inc. We're an MSP based out of Yonkers, New York. If you know where that is, it's in Westchester County, New York. If you know where that is, then you know it's just north of New York City. We actually border the Bronx, which is where I was born. Been running Progressive Computing since 1993, so we're about to hit our 31st year in February. And, we're just a traditional MSP, about 25-ish people today, doing somewhere in the $5 million a year revenue, pure MSP play. We don't really do any break fix or any kind of odd things like that. So I've been around the block a couple of times and have certainly experienced a few things in my life, and my life as an MSP owner operator, which is what we'll talk a little bit about today. And the other footnote is that I am not only an IT Nation Evolve member, but have been a facilitator there for the last 3 or 4 years. I facilitate 2 different groups and get a tremendous amount of enjoyment. I see Jeff is from the Peekskill area. That would be northern Westchester, for everybody who is now looking at a map wondering where I live. So if you want to continue, Mark. So I don't know if you're on mute now, so I don't know if I jump in on this.
We're both techs. We both know what we're doing, I guess.
No, we don't.
Awesome. So, hey, let's go back to 2021. Something happened to most MSPs, and you're here as a survivor of that. And I get to ask you these questions. And I guess the best question is, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened in 2021, man?
So some people may remember, and 1 or 2 of you may have even seen me speak publicly about this. But on July 2nd of 2021, an affiliate of Revel Sodno Kibi discovered a security flaw in the Kaseya VSA RMM tool, bypassing all authentication protocols, bypassing password authentication, bypassing 2FA authentication, which of course we had on our portal, and managed to break into about 60 different instances of Kaseya VSA across the world, including companies like Co-op, which is a Swedish supermarket chain with about 800 stores across all of Europe. 500 of their stores had every single cash register running Windows infected or encrypted with ransomware. There were school districts in a kindergarten school district in, I believe, New Zealand. There were municipalities in the Virginia area. I think, Joe, you were speaking about, you're from the Virginia area. I believe there were a few municipalities that were struck there, places in Texas. Why and how? Because some of those organizations were using an MSP and some were using Kaseya in-house, but it was mainly through the MSP world. So, and we, lucky for us, we were one of those 60, so won the wrong lottery. Yaroslav Vasinski, a Ukrainian national, I think he's 23 years old now, was one of 3 individuals responsible for breaking into our Kaseya VSA server and uploading a script and obviously Revel Sodno Kibi via a file called agent.exe, and push that agent.exe out to all 2,500 endpoints that we support or supported, of which there were about 250 servers. So we had, in the matter of about an hour and a half, went from them breaking in and us not knowing it to full encryption on every single device that we managed. So we had 100% penetration, and as I like to say, not the good kind. So that was our little bit of nightmare story.
Mm-hmm.
I can go deeply into like the emotional side of things. I'm not sure if we really have a lot of time to discuss the human elements of what we went through, what we endured. But it was 12:30 p.m. when I got my director of operations came up from the ground floor where he sits to inform me that 100% of our customers had ransomware installed on their machines simultaneously. By the way, including our own systems.
So, what was? I mean, we can dive deep onto your feelings at least. What was your first reaction? Like,
Well, first reaction when I looked at Jay walking down the hallway toward me, I happened to be sitting in my kitchen that day doing something very, very unusual. Remember, this was July 2nd
yeah,
of 2021. It was a Friday. And if you're from the Northeast or the upper Midwest, you know that, winters really suck. And you look forward to those, what weathermen often call or deem as 10 best days of the year.
yeah,
Mark, I know you're down in the Carolinas. You probably get a little bit more moderate temperature, but it's like winters are harsh around here,
yeah.
and you really, really look forward to those beautiful days of the year. And it was absolutely gorgeous weather here. The forecast was the same. Everybody had barbecues and other fun events planned for that 3-day weekend, right? So I was doing something highly unusual, which was actually eating lunch. I know, what MSP actually stops their day to go into their kitchen and actually eat something when you're supposed to, not at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right? But at actually around noon. So I saw Jay walking down the hallway as I was sitting in my kitchen, because I had a clear vantage point of the hallway from where I was sitting. And I could tell, like, just from his body language, that something was horribly wrong. And my initial thoughts was that he was coming to deliver some awful news, almost like you would see police officers knocking at your door, and just opening that door and seeing two cops, like, that's not good. So I'm looking at Jay thinking, shit, like somebody just died. So when I got up and I greeted him in the hallway, and I'm kind of giving you a short version of
Yep.
this, he couldn't even get the words out of his mouth. I mean, you think about, I want everybody listening to me right now to imagine somebody on your team coming to you to tell you that 100% of your customers have 100% of their endpoints completely encrypted with ransomware. Right? It was too surreal to process. It was just an unthinkable thing. Like, so, I started asking him questions like, come on, that doesn't make any sense. Which customer, right? No, not which, all of them. Well, which ones? Because maybe it was a few of them that somehow clicked on some fraudulent email. I don't know. Something was going around in the wild. And then it was kind of quick that the logical brain that I have surmised they broke into our RMM. I mean, I had no evidence yet, but how else could 100% of our customers be affected this way? But they broke into our RMM, and we're dead in the water. So what I was looking at as a business leader at that moment, as we came into my office, actually exactly where you see me right now was exactly where I was at about 12:35 p.m. on that day, frantically logging into systems and trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. And, desperately figuring out a way that I could push a button and make it all go away, right? It was obviously that wasn't going to happen, but I was in denial, but still searching frantically to do something. That's when I watched every icon on my desktop go from, the Word and Excel doc, icon starting to flip white, right? So now my machine is encrypted. And I, in that moment, came to this realization that the multi-million-dollar valuation that my business partner and I have poured so much of our lives, our blood, our sweat, and our tears over almost 3 decades at that point. It was 28 years, 28 and almost a half years at that point. I watched that valuation not only go to zero, but then I contemplated all the lawsuits that I would have on my hand, and then started to think about, well, I'm not just zero, I'm actually negative now. And how am I going to pay for my daughter's college tuition? She was in the middle of she was a sophomore going into junior year at that point. How am I going to provide for my family? How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to not fire everybody that works for me? At the time, we had about 30-ish people. I thought about, and then, some people say it's a little unusual. I don't know if it is or if it isn't. But I have, 2 guys that just hit their 25th anniversary with me. Another 2 ladies who just hit like their 24th year with us. Other people that have hit 16, 17, 18 years with us. It's not unusual for people to have long careers at our company. But and so when that happens, and if you have anybody like that in your organization that you've worked with for such a long time, and even those that have just joined us recently, you start to create bonds with these people. They're more than just your teammates, right? These people are part of your lives. And I know their spouses, I know their children, I know their parents. I've been to funerals and weddings and christenings. And here I was thinking, I'm going to need to fire these people because I don't have a business left. So those are some of the emotional, thoughts that went through my head in those first 10 or so minutes, where I, as probably most MSPs would consider themselves to be a fixer, right? That's not, it's not in a business book anywhere as a personality, but it's my own term that I use to describe myself. Give me a problem, my brain goes to fixing it, right? I'm a computer science major, math major. I took a lot of physics classes, like a lot of science classes. That's how I look at the world, as a series of problems to fix. And I looked at this problem and said, there is zero solution, right? It's the square root of -1. It's dividing by 0. There is no answer. And I was frozen for the first time in my life. I was completely and utterly incapable of understanding what I would even do next or even say next.
So now that you're 2 years removed from it, looking back, what could you have done differently, you think?
I'm sorry if you can, there's a lot of construction noise outside my office. I don't know if you're picking it up.
It's fine.
They have to pick today to jackhammer and drive trucks up and down the block. Don't they know that I'm doing this? Like,
I mean, we could have this outside next time.
So, well, it's better than no dog barking, I guess. So it's a good question. What could we have done differently? Well, I mean, I don't know if I would have done anything differently. I mean, had I known, of course, there would have been a lot of things I would have done differently. But I think the practical answer there is learning from what went right and what went wrong. I mean, as bleak of a story as I presented to you, I'm still here. I still have a viable business. I didn't have to terminate any of those people. I was sued, but I actually fought one customer back and got their payout to almost 0, right? And it was the only lawsuit that we faced. My company's valuation did not go to 0. I mean, it was at that particular moment in time, but it has since rebounded, and we are probably doing financially better than we've ever done before. So just some lessons learned is what I see also as a facilitator and someone who enjoys making friends in this industry. I think a lot of people feel like, man, I am behind the curve on all this cybersecurity stuff. And for those that feel like they've got it totally under control, I'm not sure I believe you. Maybe some of you do, but I don't know if you're really going, if you're truly being honest with yourself. So what I say to people is, look, cybersecurity is a journey. I'm certainly not the first person to say that. Just do one thing, right? Do something better than you did yesterday. And some advice I would give is, for instance, soon after that, I discovered CIS controls. And saw the beauty and power of a framework like that to start applying some of those principles to the practices that we have here. Are we great at it? No. Are we good at it? We're okay at it, right? We could still do a lot better. And this is from the guy who got his, his face punched in pretty severely too.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that we still work hard at this stuff because we all know that the puck keeps moving, the goalposts keep changing. So you got to develop a continuous improvement mindset. And pre-attack, I don't think that we necessarily looked at the world in that lens of that mindset of we just have to keep working on this and we just need to keep making things marginally better every day, right? The other thing is incident response planning and tabletop exercises. It feels daunting. It is if you don't really know where to start, but there's some good tools out there and there's some good processes that can help you get through that. How would I score ourselves? I would actually score ourselves kind of on the poor side, but about to leap to the good side very quickly, very soon. I'm in the process of building an IR plan for our company that's online based, not a paper document, and starting to build some exercises around doing some actual tabletops internally. And again, probably most MSPs talk about it, but very few actually do it with intentional and being intentional about it and doing it on a at least on an annual basis.
Now, I know I'm the only one asking questions. Anybody can ask questions. So if you guys have questions, please ask away. He is here for you guys for at least
Absolutely.
the next 20 minutes. So when it comes to those tabletop experiences or exercises, and I know that time is the most important commodity that MSP has.
Yep.
How, like, you said it's daunting if you don't know where to start, but how much time does it usually take for you guys to do the exercise? And
well, it's a tabletop. So it's interesting because I was just talking to him and I'm sure he won't mind me calling him out. And I just, I love to draw upon everybody from the industry. So I was just talking to Dave McKinnon, who's the CISO over at Enable, right? I don't work with Enable, but again, a guy that I met that we're actually doing some volunteer work together. I got to know him a little bit better. And he said something interesting to me about tabletops. What they do over at Enable is he said, Robert, don't think that we're spending like a full day, even with Enable's, they've got probably over 1,000 employees, right? It's like, we're not spending like a whole day off site someplace, like doing this. He goes, we literally will spend like an hour over a pizza lunch doing a tabletop exercise. The point is that you don't need to have these in-depth sessions. The idea is take the plan out, put a scenario on the table, and talk about it. And even if you only kind of get through part of it and figure out, well, that little part didn't work well, then we change that. And then they rinse and repeat, right? So I thought that was sort of refreshing to hear that, especially MSPs who feel so resource strapped, like you said, there aren't enough hours in the day, that you can do this with minimal effort and get decent results, which is way better than what, Mark? Better than doing nothing.
Yeah. Awesome. You talked about how cyber is an ongoing journey. Where do you think cyber is going for 2024?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't think anybody really does. So this is just one man's opinion. In talking to a lot of way smarter people than me on this topic, and listening to some of the cyber liability insurance folks, and talking with some others about what might come our way via legislation. I think there's a couple of things that are going to happen. First of all, this space is going to eventually get regulated. And we as MSPs need to self-regulate before the government does. The model that we need to follow is more like accountants, right? Or financial advisors, right? They follow, and I may goof this up a little bit, but they follow like FINRA is the self-governing body for financial advisors. I think. Don't crucify me if I got that wrong. I believe the same is true with accountants. I mean, if we think about, can I provide legal services, or legally sell tax services, or shoot, no disrespect to anyone who might be a real estate agent, but I can't even sell a piece of real estate to somebody else unless I have a license for it. And if you think about what an MSP does and is accountable and responsible for small businesses across this country, which represent over half the economy, and we are unregulated, we are unlicensed. Again, I don't mean to overcomplicate our lives, but I think it's coming. And I think it needs to come from us before the government does it for us, right? And so I think because of that, you're going to start seeing more pressure from both cyber liability insurance and organizations like the U.S. government, if you want to deal with them, right? There's CMMC and a host of other compliance and regulation. We're going to start to see compliance as more of a necessity than a thing that I only do for a subset of my customers. I also think what's going to happen is think about this as an MSP. Would you go to a show and engage with a vendor and they tell you like, oh yeah, we don't really focus on cybersecurity at all, meaning like for their own business? Like, would you probably like look at them like the way I'm looking in the camera now, like a little weird, and say, I'm going to go to the next booth, right? Because if they're not taking cybersecurity internally seriously, then how confident are you in backing that as a solution that you sell or use to deliver services to your customers? Probably very low. And in fact, you're going to be pissed when their system gets hacked and now it affects you because they didn't take it seriously enough. So now flip that around and say, this is kind of a conversation I've been having at a very high level with some of our clients to say, would you accept doing business with some of your customers if they don't take things seriously? And what about some of the big suppliers and vendors that you use? They may look at you and say, no, we're not dealing with you unless you can fill out a profile on your cybersecurity readiness. Let's call it that, right? I think something like that is coming. I don't know what in form, and I don't know in what form or and where it's coming from. But I think the best place it could come from is a self-regulated body for the MSP space.
Awesome. Oh, and Joe has a question. You have to unmute.
And trust me, listen, I'm a conservative guy politically, like, and I don't like regulation. To me, it like makes me cringe, but I think this is necessary. Joe.
Gotcha. So my question is, both then, say before the incident, and now, did you have sort of like a business continuity disaster recovery plan in place, or a playbook as far as, hey, this has happened, I need to start making phone calls. This is my number one call, number two, and so on down the list?
So we didn't. We talked about things like, so there was always loose conversation in the office, but nothing like set in a document, a checklist. None of that existed beforehand. And shame on us for not having that, which is why we're taking these things far more seriously these days. I will say this is that our cyber liability insurance policy went into effect on Monday, June 28th of 2021. And we were attacked on Friday, July 2nd of 2021. And in those first few hours of having that 4-day policy in effect, idiot me was so like frazzled by what was going on that like it didn't dawn on me, maybe I should call them. It was actually my finance director who said, Robert, we have that policy. Shouldn't we call them? So I'm going to actually segue that a little bit, Joe, that question into something that happened to me over that summer. So what we didn't really get a chance to talk about was how we recovered. And one of the ways we recovered was by community response, meaning my peer group members literally flew here. Remember, I'm in New York, so as far away as Santa Barbara, California, Austin, Texas, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Florida, I mean, Kansas. People came in from all over the country, not only as leaders of organizations, right? Guys like who's ever listening to me now, guys and gals, and brought some of their best techs along with them as well. And that's how we recovered. There's a reason I'm telling you all this is because in that summer, I felt so humbled by that community response. And by the way, not just peers, but also vendors that stepped up to the table. That I felt like we needed to have a organizational response. So Joe, God forbid you ever get hit one day, that you don't feel alone because maybe you don't have the same resources or connections that I had. So I registered msp911.org. It is now in CompTIA's control, and we formed something called the Emergency Response Team. And that, what you asked, Joe, and this is the long tail now getting to answering your question, is that if you go to that website and it's not fully built yet, but there's a phone number that you can call and say, hey, I just got hit and I don't know what the hell to do. I need some help. You're going to get assigned a coach like me or someone else. There's a lot of volunteers behind the scenes helping out here, who will walk you through like just those silly things like, did you call your cyber policy? Oh, you didn't? All right, hang up with me. Go do that right now. We can provide you some checklists of things that you need to be thinking about. Joe, are you sleeping? What about your family? How about your employees? Are you well fed? You know that you can't push people 18 hours a day. That ain't a way to survival, right? You actually have to pull that back, right? And eventually what this organization will be able to do is to be able to dispatch boots on the ground. And I'm not kidding when I say this, that all of this will cost you a giant goose egg. Zero. It's just volunteers who feel like, you know what, when they hit one of us, they hit all of us. So we've got to help. We've got to help protect each other through community efforts like that. So you asked about business continuity plan. Is that a business continuity plan? Absolutely not. Should not take the place of it, right? Shouldn't be your fallback. Oh, I could just call that number. No. But eventually what we'll have on there are some frameworks and some other key things that you ought to be thinking about putting those things in place. This, as a victim, this is me taking my power back from guys that I don't have the technical capability to fight. I can't fight Revel, Sono, Kibi, Lockbit. Those guys are way smarter and have way more resources than me. And I don't want to piss them off individually because they'll ruin me. But I can be a force to help lift the rest of the community up to help fight back.
That is completely awesome, man. That is great.
Well, you see that flag behind me? It means something. It's not there just because I thought it was nice to hang.
Any other questions for anybody? No? You guys can go off mute, ask questions on chat. I'll give it a second. All right. You mentioned, Robert, cybersecurity compliance. I want to get down to it and ask you, who's actually responsible for that? Is it you or your clients?
That's another great question. So, on this journey of me saying, wow, like I just survived this traumatic event, I started to immerse myself in this world a lot deeper. And again, I'm still learning as I'm going, right? It's been 2+ years and I'm still, trying to be better at this. One of the things that we discovered was that this question that you just posed of who's ultimately responsible for this. And I think it is MSPs, we misdirect that accountability to only us. We feel wholly and 100% responsible for cybersecurity. But I think that's wrong thinking, or at least that's what the education I got tells me, is that we are co-responsible with our clients. It's our responsibility to educate them, to consult with them, to advise them on the importance of these things. And then if they say yes, to be the stewards of those systems and making sure that everything that we promised that we were going to sell them is being delivered. But, we all have those customers that will give you the Heisman on, like, no, I don't need this. It's unnecessary. I don't have the budget. that's their responsibility, right? And you've got to do a good job at clearly articulating what the consequences are if they don't do these things, and not necessarily through scare tactics, but through that educational conversation, right? You have to truly be a C-level, a virtual C-level, alongside them. And listen, you can only go that far. How many of us go to the doctor and he says, lose weight, Robert, exercise more, Robert. And I go, yeah, I really need to do those things. And I'm still overweight and still not in the physical condition I want to be in because my doctor can't force me to do those things.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned on LinkedIn, and I kind of replied and said, is it, the whole factor of scare factor when it comes to security and whatnot. And I basically managed to tie that into how a doctor would actually talk to you about your health. Sure, there's a scare factor to it, and said, hey, Mark, you're diabetic, or you have a history of diabetes, but here's medication. You know what I'm saying? Sure, there's a scare factor, but you're the doctor is proposing a resolution or a remediation for it. So that's technically what an MSP should do, and say, hey, I'm scaring you, but here's why I'm scaring you, and then here's medication for it.
Yep.
So
you've got to bring that gravitas to the conversation, right? You got to put it in a way that's like, hey, I'm a business owner too. I understand the risks of your business because I understand risks to my business too. Yeah. You got to talk in those business terms to them about, profit and loss, business risk, reputational loss. What does this mean for you should something bad happen? And you got to, if you speak from your heart and also your head as a fellow business owner, then you can get pretty far with that stuff without overly scaring them.
Yeah. Awesome. And more into how you guys have used Lifecycle Insights when it comes to talking to your clients. How much is too much? Like, do your clients get sick and tired of you talking about security? Is security always the main topic for you guys now?
Just for a point of reference, I think you had some questions like this on some upcoming slides. So I don't know if you want to advance to that or not.
Yeah, I do.
Just to kind of get people thinking. I think, Mark, you're 100% right, because if I go into every single meeting going security, you're all in trouble. You're going to die. After a while, that message becomes kind of dull and you sound like Chicken Little, right? The sky's falling. I think it's important that you maintain the proper amount of pressure on that conversation, but don't allow it to dominate. And you and I were talking about this yesterday in kind of preparation for this call. I think one great way to do that is in preparation for any kind of, I don't know, we call them SBRs. We do an annual strategic business review meeting. We do some meetings in between as well to buttress them. But in our annual SBR, where we're a little bit more in depth, what I want to know before I step into that meeting, and it depends on your relationship and longevity with that client, you may know these things already, but I want to know what their goals and challenges are as a business, right? Mark, you're the operator or owner or CFO maybe of that manufacturing company with 80 computers. I want to know from your head, what's going on in your world? What's important to you as a business? What are your goals? What are your challenges? And then, so forget cyber for an instance, or security for an instance, and really talk about anything, right? Anything within our assessments within Lifecycle Insights. The key here is, and I know many of you probably heard this already, so it might be obvious, is to marry or join those negative assessment items or those issues that you discover through your assessments to their goals and challenges, right? And also look to flip the conversation from, hey, look, there's a problem here, to, hey, I can help you overcome that business goal or challenge, right? One, for instance, might be, we're looking to reduce cost and we're thinking about going virtual, right? Okay, great, but you got a server stuck in a closet there. How are you going to do that? We're going to start moving stuff to the cloud, right? We got to start getting files up into Teams. Let me show you what you can do there. Oh, you have recruitment retention issues. Oh, you're starting to hire people and foreign countries to help you. Well, how do we manage their IT? Well, cloud PCs, right? Like I'm just throwing random stuff out here. I think everybody gets this, right? You got to make the point of this, not, hey, I want to sell you a cloud PC, to, hey, I want to solve a business problem for you. And cloud PCs is the way to do that, right? Or cybersecurity is a way to protect you, or whatever it is that I'm about to tell you that's either wrong with your system or I have a solution is really focused on either that goal or challenge.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any questions on here that, anybody want to ask, or should I just keep going down? Like, what were your business reviews like before this happened? How's it changed? What were your conversations? Well, I guess my question is, how did you tell your client, your people first about the attack? And then how did you tell your clients about it?
Well, a lot of them knew it happened even before I did, because these are all, most of my team are frontline workers, right? So, that was, part of the story is, which I'll gloss over super quick here, is I could, once Jay told me, I could see and hear people in the office having conversations. Like, how like you tune that stuff out, but then you suddenly start to listen to what everybody's talking about. And you're like, holy shit, something bad is going on, because they're all apologizing and saying they're going to get a tech, or they don't know what's going on, but, we'll get right back to you, or there's some system-wide thing going on. Like, those are the snippets of things I heard. And telling the clients, I mean, there's a whole long conversation just about communication, which you need to be really, really mindful and also advised legally on the types of communications that go out. Probably don't have a lot of time to talk about that today, but I do want to hone in on one point, Mark, and that's this, and this is really a plug for Lifecycle and all of your competitors.
Yeah.
And that is this: you lose small clients on service. When service is shitty, you're going to lose the small clients. When your account management is shitty, you're going to lose the big ones, right? And we lost some accounts, some big accounts, because of the incident, because I feel at the time we were not good at account management. We were actually poor at it. We were great relationship people, but having a relationship with somebody is very, very different than providing them structured account management.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some customers that walked because frustration levels just couldn't tolerate now this incident. And dare I even say, we didn't have the right relationships and ongoing conversations with the right people there. So that was another big lesson that I learned. I actually, for those of you who follow EOS, I actually stepped down as my company's integrator and became our full, what we call partner success manager, fancy title for account manager or VCIO extraordinaire, whatever the hell title you want to put on it, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But getting good and deliberate and intentional and disciplined around account management type of, being, they've got to have the assessment. We've got to lead them. We've got to have conversations with them. We've got to understand their goals and needs and challenges better and marry these conversations that we learned a lot of lessons over the last 2 years. I'd like to say, I think that we're now a model for how you should do this stuff. And we still have a lot of improvement to go. But if you are using Lifecycle in your business, like sort of here and there, like, please do yourself a favor and start putting more time and attention to that, especially with like the top, let's say 30-40% of your customers, because you're going to lose them. Somebody else is going to come along and show them a better way.
You mentioned how the changes that you made, the relationships, and that's pretty much how you got your business back. So I don't have to ask these questions. I do want to move forward to the last slide.
Sure.
As far as and I showed this last week for our first ever booster, and this is just something I picked out of LinkedIn, and was wondering what your thoughts are on these 3 reasons why cyber offerings is crippling MSPs.
Yeah, we went through this as well at that time, and sometimes I have to even remind myself of my own opinions on this. because you can walk, like I'm about to go to IT Nation in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
I'll be there because I'm an Evolve facilitator and right? And I'm going to walk that show floor, and there's going to be a lot of shiny objects and butterflies to chase. And it just feels like every week there's yet another, and here's the joke, AI powered cybersecurity like widget that you can install. If you really want to piss me off, just say whatever you've got is AI powered, because it's a little bullshit, but that's besides the point. My point is there's so much stuff entering the marketplace, and probably a lot of it is really good, right? But you got to develop a plan for consistently filtering these things out and not chase every single new shiny object for the sake of doing it. You might actually even find something that's better than what you're doing today, but I would urge you to take a more measured approach. And what I mean by this is, A, should be filtering everything through CIS controls. If you're looking at something that's IG1 on control 18, and you're looking at something else that's IG1 on control 3, I'm just, throwing out some random numbers. I would focus the one on control 3, right? Because their prescriptive guidance is do these in order, obviously. Or if it's not obvious, you should check it out. The other thing that I would urge you to do, and this is an idea I stole, swiped, whatever you want to say, from another peer who said, we release our cybersecurity package version twice a year. And you can even start with once a year. We have our new 2024 cyber package being released next year. You blast that out to all your customers. You tell them, hey, you're on the 2023 version of it, the new 2024 version of it. We swapped out a tool. There's no cost difference. Great. But another scenario is we added something and I got to charge you something more for it. If you communicate to them in advance, that sort of model that, hey, this is a landscape that's shifting very, very quickly, but I don't want to have to keep coming back to the well every month with yet another line item to charge you for. But if you're a little bit more controlled and measured with that, and like I said, a friend of mine does a .1 and a .2 version every year, I think that's brilliant, right? So now they know it's June, and when they get that email that says, hey, we're releasing our second half cyber plan, and guess what? There's no change. And there's no price change. Or we added something and we absorbed that cost, or we added something and we got to charge another $1 a month. Start taking that approach, because there's too much pressure. There's a way more things to look at today than there were even a year ago. If you don't do this in a controlled and I keep using this word intentional, I think it's very powerful, but in an intentional way, you're going to find yourself in the middle of chaos.
Yeah. Awesome. I want to make sure that I open up everybody's 10 minutes worth of questions. If we don't have any questions, I know Brian, you just joined. We had a great conversation with Robert Cioffi here, and he now has to restart over because he just joined. I'm just kidding.
You can listen to the recording.
Yeah, he'll listen to the recording. But I wanted to open it up for everybody. If anybody has any questions, concerns, emotional outbursts for Robert, and he's a good friend with Lifecycle Insights. I know him from conversations with Marty and Alex and whatnot. He's an all-around. Once again, when I introduced him, he's an all-around great guy. Be sure to follow him on LinkedIn. And where's his LinkedIn? There it is.
Yep.
And he will be in IT Nation Evolve coming soon, I believe, end of this month. Or
Correct.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's the big, it's second week of November.
Froze, and I think I lost. Oh, is it? I froze there. Sorry, it's in November.
It's in the first week of November.
But cool. Any questions for everybody? If not, I'm going to let Robert go. He's had this whole 40 minutes of talk, and he has to decompress all this from the conversation. Anybody? Nope. All right. So last slide that I have. Today is the 18th. Robert Cioffi, once again, thank you so much for being here. we have more boosters coming up. I'm going to be talking with Damian Stevens of Servosity. It is a backup and disaster recovery software next week, and I'm going to talk to him about, hey, when are the good times for backup disaster recovery conversations on business reviews and whatnot. I do have, Joe says thank you, Robert. On November 1st, I'm talking about the budget forecast. It's not too late to build a budget, especially November coming into the next year. And then I do a budget deep dive on the 8th. And then looking back and looking forward, that's when I invite my devs to actually talk about what we've added new to Lifecycle Insights, and then the roadmap of what we have for at least November, December, and to next quarter. And we are going to have an episode for November 22nd. What are you thankful for? Everybody's invited. Nobody has to come. I'm just there to let everybody, come into one event and say, hey, I'm thankful for this. I'll record that and post it on our site and all that. And just really, really thankful. I'm thankful for everybody here, everybody who's going to be listening to this recording. So to that point, I want to bid you guys adieu. Oh, Brian, you went off mute.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, are these 10 a.m. on Wednesdays? Or
PT, yes.
Yeah,
10 a.m.
It's the same time as our weekly company meeting, which is kind of a bummer. Our meeting ended early today, and I was like, oh, I want to hop in and see what I missed, maybe, but I'll just have to watch the recordings. No worries about that.
Yeah, just the recordings is great. If not, I will vouch. What time is best for Wednesdays? Because I know Luis is taking Friday afternoons. Is it Wednesday afternoons best for this, or what do you guys think? Joe, Jeff, Scott, John, what do you guys?
Wednesdays, I'm usually good except in the early morning. Wednesday's my work from home day, so
Okay.
good for me all day.
Okay. So I'll advocate to my team and say, if we can do this 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, just so that this is the end of the day kind of conversation, we should have that at that time.
Yeah, it's tricky for the West Coasters, right? I would say in general, anything after 11 a.m. PT is typically safe. But that first 3 hours in the morning for us, we're typically having internal meetings, we're getting ready for our day, and so it's going to be harder to make the morning ones for West Coasters.
Okay, I will advocate that, and we'll see what happens. Once again, thank you, Robert. I appreciate you, friend of the cast, I wanted to say podcast, but it's not. Friend of the show, and whatnot. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy Wednesday, and have a great life cycling. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.